Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It is Saturday night, 10 after 10, December the 1st. Sorry I'm late. Just getting into my show late here tonight. And didn't have a real show lineup. I usually don't. I just sort of talk about what I'm dealing with or what I'm thinking about for the day or what I've seen out here, on the internet and stuff. I happen to have something really interesting pop into my inbox the other day that I thought was pretty interesting, and I just wanted to share with you what's happening here for next year for April's National Child Abuse Awareness Month, and it's called the Innocence Revolution. It's theinnocencerevolution.net. If you want to go to their website, at http www.theinnocencerevolution.net, a global day to end child sexual abuse. And this is pretty awesome. I was looking at it the other day and just checking it out, and they've got it sort of slated to be held through different cities throughout the world. Cities are signing up like right now, and they will be probably through until April 14th, 2013. And so you can register for this event if you're interested. If you have an organization or you're part of a not-for-profit or something that's interested in getting involved, any country, all countries are welcome. And it seems pretty cool. It's nice to see something like this going on and happening. And the actual people, like the board, the leadership team, they're calling it. I'll just read off who's doing this. I got this email from Jill Starashevsky, and she's a co-founder, and she's a prosecutor. She's been a prosecutor in New York City since 1997. I'm just quoting from the website, where she has prosecuted hundreds of sex offenders and dedicated her career to seeking justice for victims of child abuse and sex crimes. In October 2006, Jill launched HowsMyNanny.com, the first online nanny reporting service that works to keep children safe by enabling parents to receive positive and negative feedback on their child's caregiver. And Jill is also the author of My Body Belongs to Me. That's an awesome book. A children's book, it says, intended to prevent child sexual abuse by teaching 3 to 8-year-olds their bodies are private. Featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Jill is a prevention specialist who, through media appearances and public speaking events, teaches how to recognize and prevent child sexual abuse. So that's Jill Starashevsky. Hope I'm not mispronouncing her name. There's also Elizabeth Cuccinello. There's Paula Phelps. All kinds of awesome, like really active advocates and specialists really working to put this together. R. Carl Hart, I got to talk with a bit, and he's one of known as Oprah's 200 men. He was on the show, and he's one of the 200 men that was on Oprah's show. And he sits on the board of directors for justtell.org, and he's also part of the NASCA.org. Awesome leadership team there. Dr. Pamela Pine and Tom Scales. And so if you want to go to their website, theinnocencerevolution.net, you can take a look at what their plans are for this one global day to end child sexual abuse happening next year, April 14th, 2013. And it's just great to see what's happening out there, and that there are lots and lots of groups, not just groups, I just call them groups, but organizations, not-for-profits, and different organizations out there who, are really working hard, really hard. A lot of times, just devoting their whole lives to these things to make a difference, to protect children, to promote prevention strategies, to help protect children from child sexual abuse and from abuse, period. And so, just get involved where you can. Like, there's all kinds of great organizations out there that need volunteers and need people to help out. Not everybody's got a bunch of money to donate to these things, and that's a fact, but a lot of it you can help in different ways, volunteering, getting the word out, spreading the message on the different social networking sites and things like that. And it's always good to be volunteering. You know, it's like I volunteer with the lamplighters.org, and it's not even a not-for-profit. It's founded by Marjorie McKinnon, and she is a survivor of childhood abuse, incest, and abuse, physical abuse, and all types of abuse. And she survived and she thrived I mean, over the years, and she wrote books, and she's put together this website that helps people to locate these chapters, Lamplighters chapters, where people can go to really just to have someone to talk to. You know, it's not a counseling session, and it's not a therapy session, but it's a place where people who have been abused and experienced domestic violence, child sexual abuse of any type, sexual assault, you know, anything like that. It's a free place that a person can go where they don't have to buy books and they don't have to pay money to join, and you know, they can sit and just talk with people who have been there, understand, know where they're coming from, offer some support, some ideas for support, and just generally just be there for that person and, you know, have someone to talk to, right? And so I facilitate the Calgary chapter, and, you know, I volunteer with groups if I can do it, you know, like I'm gone 12 hours a day, working all the time, and I have to make a living. But, you know, if I didn't have to work, you know, I'd be volunteering all of my services all the time. Like I'd be more involved if I didn't have to work, you know. But I don't want to be paid to be part of the solution. So for me, the only way that I could go into that full time would be able to be self-supportive, so that I'm not drawing on the funds that need to go to the people, you know. So that's just me. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody wants to do that. But that's just me. That's how I feel about it. But so I just do what I can in my spare time, you know, which is very limited. And but everybody can do something, you know, like once a month, or once even every 2 or 3 months, volunteering for something. There's all kinds of stuff out there, you know, and just getting involved. It's great. It's a great thing to do because children are suffering needlessly. This is all needless. In other words, there's no reason. There's no reason. There's no excuse for child abuse, right, of any type. And there's no reason for it. There's no justification for it. There's no excuse for it. There's a whole world out there that likes to make excuses and likes to justify and likes to qualify the fact that they've abused a child or that they do abuse children or whatever. There's all kinds of people out there that think it's perfectly okay to abuse a child, and it's not. And so I don't mind standing up, speaking out against it. I have nothing better to do with the rest of my time. It's absolutely ridiculous that the world thinks that this is okay. And if you study the history and you actually realize that, I mean, there were really no programs and no real assistance happening until pretty much the 80s and 90s. That's not 1890s, that's 1990s. I mean, in the 60s, they had beginning programs in the States, I'm talking about. And, you know, they didn't have, it wasn't set up, you know what I mean? It was just the beginning. So you think about that. That's only 60 years, right? That's only one generation. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, most people's grandparents are 60 years old, you know what I mean? And so they would be just being born at that time. And that's just a few years older than what I am right now. And in the 60s, I mean, they didn't know what they were doing, right? In the 70s, they didn't know what they were doing, you know? In the 80s, they were trying, and you can tell where, you know, they really started to try to vamp up and create programs to help, you know, stop the madness of child abuse and domestic violence and whatnot. But it's still, you know, it's still so lacking. But that's because if you think about it, it's only been about, like, let's say 1990 or 85, or let's even say 80, 30 years of the especially just North America, the North American continent really, and parts of Europe, who have done anything about this at all. And you think about the turn of the century, there were even the 1880s, 1870s, in the Industrial Revolution, and 1890s, and people were starting to write about the injustices that they were seeing, done again, towards children, towards women, towards people around the world, no matter what race you come from. And so it's really just kind of current that we're dealing with it, right? And so, nowadays people just think it's something that's been happening forever, that there's always been support, and that there's always been stuff happening to try to help people who have been abused, or to try to help get children, first of all, out of abusive homes where their lives are being threatened and whatnot. It's very sadly enough rare that a child will be removed from the home permanently, because the whole idea is that most of the work that's being done is to keep families together, and that's okay as long as the child's not going to be abused in that situation. It's like saying, well, we'll just stay with you long enough to make sure you're not abusing the child or anyone else in the family, and we'll just intervene here for a little while, and then we'll go away, and you should be just fine. But usually the situation is that things don't stay that way. That's what happened in my family. Like, I'm speaking from experience and from what I've seen out here. And people won't, if they're not going to change their hearts, they're not. If they think it's okay to abuse their children or their partner or whoever they're abusing, or somebody else's child, right, they're going to keep doing it until they decide to stop, or they get put in prison, or they do, then they can't really do anything until they get out, right? And if they still haven't changed their heart and their mind about the whole thing, then when they get out of prison, they're going to continue to do the same thing, because it's a personal choice, right? Abuse is a choice. I want everybody to know that. I study abuse. I study all types of things like that, because that's where my heart is. Is to eventually, and along the road, make enough noise about this with everybody else out here, because I'm just one more voice, and everybody needs to have their voice to this in whatever way you can. Get involved, right? Because this is absolutely insane. And first of all, abuse is a crime, right? It's a crime. It doesn't matter whether it's child abuse, domestic violence. It's generally not reported as a crime, and it's generally only treated as a misdemeanor. And if you really look at the facts of what's going on out here in regards to domestic violence and child abuse, it's treated in the courts as a joke, and it always was. My mom went to court when she was sort of just in the first few years of the marriage with my dad, to try to get a divorce because he was abusing the children and he was abusing her. Well, she was also abusing the children, but at this point she was wanting to get out of the marriage. And the courts in Canada at that time, in the 1940s, getting around 1948, 50, were not granting divorces for any reason other than infidelity. So it was perfectly okay back in those days for my dad to do what he was doing, right? The courts condoned it. The courts said, no, sorry, too bad. You'll just have to deal with it. So my mom was forced to stay in this marriage unless she wanted to go on, and try to raise 5 children on her own, because at that time there was 5 children born. So this is the plight, of women, and not just women, but men are abused too. But this is just the plight of abused people, right? I mean, they're victimized already. They're already victims by being abused in a certain situation, no matter who it is. They're already victimized, and then to be victimized again in the courts, and again by the services that are supposed to be there to help them out, right? And so it's important to realize that the services that are out there, there's many people that are working really hard to try to change things, but they can't just change it overnight, and they need help. They need people that can volunteer. If you have any kind of skills or any kind of knowledge base or any kind of, degrees or anything like that, get involved, because this is an issue that it's not. I used to think, because I grew up, obviously everybody listens to my last 900 shows, knows that I was abused as a child. And I used to think, wow, it's so great that people are doing this work, that people are out here trying to stop child abuse and really trying to make a difference. And it's just wonderful. Like, I never thought that I could get involved, right? Because I thought, oh, you have to have a degree. And, I just, I'm not going to go to college and try to get a degree. Who's got the money for that? Like, I've never had any money, and I've been working regular jobs all my life, and I don't have any support, obviously, and my sweetheart does the best he can, but he's terminally ill. And so, where was this money going to come from? You know what I mean? And how would it just wasn't going to work. And I've been with my sweetheart 20 years, so. But even when I was in my 20s, I used to think, wow, it's awesome that there's people out here in the world who are doing all this great stuff. And I never realized that I have a voice. I can do something too. I can speak out against this too. I can stand up for people's rights. I can stand up for the rights of children. Nobody else is going to do it. Abusers certainly aren't going to stand up for rights of children. You have to put your thinking caps on when it comes to this stuff and think about it. Who's going to stand up to protect children's rights? Children who are being abused in abusive homes, or whether they're or abused by somebody in daycare or wherever it may be, wherever the child is, right? It could be any place, right? Because children are abused where they are, right? So where's a child? Generally at home, generally at daycare, maybe a relative's house, maybe a neighbor's house, maybe after school program, maybe who knows? Like wherever the child is, that's where the abuse is happening. Are those people going to look out for that child's rights? No, they're going to abuse that child. So if the rest of the population isn't going to do it, then no one will. And that's the importance of getting involved and knowing, what to look for, signs and symptoms, knowing how to properly report child abuse, and understanding, how you can mess it up for the child if you don't report it properly. And also that you should report it as a crime to the police, not just to social services, because you should do both. You should report it first as a crime to the police. Child abuse is a crime. It is punishable by the law. And, if it's found that a child is being abused and it is proven in court without a doubt, it's punishable by the law. It's a crime, right? But so many times it's not treated as a crime because it's reported to another agency who then takes it over, and then it's not made, there's no police report made. It's not noted as a crime, right? And so a lot of times abusers walk free. They do. Oh, yes, they do. And it's, really sad because these are people that really shouldn't be around children, anybody's child, So it's like, you got to think about this stuff. Like, it's incredibly serious. Children are dying, right, every day due to abuse. And if they don't die, they're in the hospital due to abuse-related injuries. And it's horrific, It's absolutely horrific because who's looking out for these children, Well, it's got to be all of us, right? All of us. We all need to get involved, right? Well, sorry I was late for my show. I've only got like a minute left, and I'll hopefully be back around again Monday morning talking about the biblical counseling material that I'm studying through and looking at that. So, just take care, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into my shows. I really appreciate it. But get involved. Take a look around at what's going on. And check out the innocencerevolution.net. That's an awesome thing coming up. And there'll be lots of other organizations, getting involved for April 2013, especially for the United States, because that's basically where that's taking place, for the National Day, to promote child abuse prevention, right? And so get involved, right? You got a few months to sort of scope it out and see what group you might want to get involved with, and, get involved, make a difference, right? Save a child's life. And promote prevention of all types of abuse, right? Have a good night, everybody. Take it easy. Bye-bye.